Hello and welcome back to the show. So I am really excited about my guest today, Suzanne Rocha, because she is very experienced in the real estate space and also has quite a unique story getting started in real estate brokerage as well, which she will be definitely digging into today. But a little bit about Suzanne. She is a nationally ranked and award-winning real estate broker and the founder of Cow Home, her own premier real estate brokerage serving the San Francisco Bay Area, and she's been featured also on multiple television programs sharing her expertise as well. So in today's episode, Suzanne's going to be sharing with us a little bit about her keys to success, how she become one of the top real estate brokers in her area, and also, just some of her best tips for you guys out there who are also real estate agents. So Suzanne, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to have you join us here today.
Thank you. I'm very excited as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for our listeners out there who, maybe have not looked into you or who don't know who you are, would you mind just sharing a little bit more about yourself, your background? We talked a little bit before the show about how you got
Sure,
started. I'd love for you to have a chance to share that with the audience.
sure. So again, my name is Suzanne Rocha. I am the owner and broker of Cal Home. I actually jump started a little bit into becoming a real estate broker about 20 years ago. And I am an award-winning broker. I'm ranked in the top in California as well as the nation. But also, I've been a trusted voice in real estate for over nearly 2 decades in media, in television. So I am a well-known face and personality in the Bay Area, where I've offered information, advice, education, talk about lifestyle changes and transitions for people that are thinking of buying and selling in real estate.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So you've been on television quite a bit. So, I mean, I think that's quite a unique experience as well. So, just kind of starting us off, right? So, as a real estate agent, I'm sure there's a lot of agents and brokers out there that want to, kind of get their face out there as much as possible. So, how did that opportunity came about that you had the opportunity to go in and essentially be an expert voice in the media?
Well, my whole background actually was in marketing. So I went to college. I was going to be a marriage family therapist, studied psychology. I loved that. And then I got into marketing. And that's really where I felt that I could combine psychology and marketing together. So I developed a career in marketing that way. And about 20 years ago, because I've always had an interest in real estate, and I thought, you know what, I really feel like that I can inject something different into the real estate market with a different avenue and a different perspective for a lot of people who are thinking of buying and selling. Because sometimes when you talk to somebody, they think real estate is very typical. You can expect this and this and this. But what I wanted to do was to be different and also to come across differently in my advertising. Because a lot of times people really want to see somebody credibility wise, and television media was the absolute best for me. Of course, it wasn't everything that I do, but I really, really invested time and money and effort in that so that I really could become well known in the Bay Area. Also, really, really show people that I have a lot of compassion with what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's quite unique because nowadays a lot of agents utilize social media, right, to get
Mhm.
their face out there, to get their brand out there. When you were starting out, I think there's not maybe not as much focus on social media at the time. So you took a little bit
Okay.
of a different direction and you went with more of a traditional media direction to get started and get your face out there and let essentially let the market know who you are. Is that correct?
Much so. So again, coming from very an innovative marketing standpoint, I really looked at what was happening in the real estate market back, nearly 2 decades ago. And I just kind of saw, to be honest, the same old, same old. And I really thought, we really need to, like I said, inject something different as far as like education. People really, really want, at the end of the day, peace of mind and somebody to trust. And back then, again, yes, social media wasn't as, prevalent. So again, people really like to get that first impression of somebody. So that's why I thought television would really be a good avenue for me. And so it wasn't necessarily television that I was showcasing a property, going through and doing some of the traditional sense of, here's the kitchen, this is a remodeled house, but it was something more of what is going on in the market insights. People are coming up against some tough decisions. They don't know what to do or who to trust. And so that's really what I developed through television.
Right. And that's important too, because I think we've seen this. It doesn't matter where you are as far as when did you get started, what medium of advertising that you're using to get your message across. The idea behind what it is that you've done and made you so successful is the fact that you are able to share market insights. You're able to actually take that platform and then utilize it as a way to actually educate your clients, right? Which we've seen now other real estate agents now they're using it on YouTube maybe
Sure,
right they can't get on television, Instagram, TikTok as well. So when
sure,
you're looking at kind of the landscape of real estate today and maybe looking at some of the content agents are putting out there, what would you say are some key tips that you would give to them in order for them to be successful in their own markets, whether if it's educating clients,
sure.
what are some of the things that they need to be hitting on in their content in order to actually draw their clients' trust and attention?
Sure. Well, I guess you have to really look at who's your target. Certain generations are going to want to experience different things. And for a lot of the younger generations, they want quick information. They don't want to be reading something and listening to something for a long time. They want to develop that instant trust. So I think the YouTube platform is really, really essential. So then if you go up the ladder, if you have somebody that is older, they may not always go to these different platforms to get their information. And so that's why I really, as a tip, you really have to see who's your target. How do you get in front of them, and how do you become a trusted advisor for them? Because again, everybody knows a real estate agent. People have told me, oh, my friend's a real estate agent, my cousin, my uncle, my neighbor. So how do you really stand out? Because I think there's a step there that you have to take in your career of really developing your individualism among so many people. And so you have to really focus on what you could offer, what you want to offer, how you want to propose it, and what medium. And I think the biggest tip is be innovative. Sometimes people say, oh, aren't you so and so? I think it sounded like the same real estate agent I just spoke to. We get in kind of a cookie cutter process, whether it's presentations or even advertising. And you really can't be in your cookie cutter mode.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that as well because you've seen across the board, right, other real estate agents getting started in their careers and they're putting out, the same ads as another
Mhm.
real estate agent just right down the street who's, putting out the same ad as another agent just 2 blocks down the street as well. And it's the same thing, right?
Sure.
They're not offering anything unique. So would you say it's maybe a little bit more important today for agents to maybe showcase their unique personality, right? Not just necessarily putting out information that anybody can, essentially now these days create online, but really make it so that they're showcasing their personality, what it is that make them unique, just like you did, right, with your background in psychology and marketing.
Mhm. Yes, I think that's really, really important because you have to come across, people want to see the real person. They don't want to see these typical ads because people are immune to them. Again, it all blends with people, and really offer something that is innovative that you could offer. And to be honest, what I initially thought is because I look at pain points for people. Pain points. What do people not want to experience and or want to experience? And for a lot of people out there, for me, it's been privacy. People
Mhm.
oftentimes don't want a lot of the, you know, maybe for sale signs. So I come across in a way that offers a no for sale sign process so that they really, again, we're still marketing the property and doing everything, but we just don't have the for sale sign. And people love that. And I've been doing that for years. They can't have a sign or they don't need a sign. And a lot of times agents feel the need that they have to put the sign because they're thinking of their own advertising. They're thinking of really the benefit for the neighborhood. But you really have to dial into the pain points of your seller, of what they want, what are they fearful of, because at the end of the day, peace of mind is what really is going to make you, the listing agent.
Of course, right? And that's something that I don't think a lot of agents even consider as a potential, I guess, opportunity, right? Of offering their seller clients the ability to put their house in the market essentially without putting a for sale sign in the street. Because for a lot of sellers, that could be, something they don't necessarily want, right? To draw that type of attention to
Correct.
themselves, to draw that type of attention around their community as well. So you're able to figure, I'm assuming, figure a way around that, but still be able to market their property, find buyers without putting, the kind of the traditional media, the traditional marketing out there that, pretty much 90,
Correct.
99 of the agents do.
Correct. And for a lot of people who are still living in the property, there's a couple of things that they don't like. They don't like the neighbor questions.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you put the sign and the neighbors start running across the street to ask what's going on. What are you putting the sales price at? When are you moving? Where are you moving? So that kind of takes a lot of fear and, again, the privacy aspect. So we still market the property. You're not taking away anything. It's just that in 2025, I don't think that we need to have a for sale sign because again, back maybe 20 years ago, people were driving neighborhoods. They didn't have
Mhm.
the digital access like they do now. So with that digital access is that, do you really want somebody pulling up, knocking on your door and coming in? You don't know if they're pre-approved, you don't know what their price point is, anything. So it's just one tool. It's not to say people need to do that, but that is a way for agents and brokers to offer something that is out of the box.
Yeah, of course. And it's just something that, people don't think about too much. But you're right. You're absolutely correct in that, in this day and age, you don't necessarily need to have a for sale sign in the front yard in order
Mhm.
for people to actually find your property and understand that it is on the market, right? This is a much more digital age. There's a lot more information online these days, right? A lot of, actual real buyers are finding these properties and finding, properties on the market through online methods and not necessarily driving neighborhoods, right? They already have an idea of where they want to go, right? When
Correct.
they actually are, booking these showings.
Sure, sure. And you are really tailoring to that homeowner. You're looking out for their privacy. We're still, working the process. We're still doing all that we need to do to advertise the property, but we just have a little safeguard in place for them because they want to feel that sense of they don't want to feel vulnerable. And I think a sign sometimes makes them feel vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I think, comes with talking with the client, right? So that's
Mhm.
something that I think, great agents do really well, which is they have to take a much more consultative approach when it is actually that they're sitting down with their clients before getting a property on the market or before starting the home search, right? Is that a big piece of what it is that you do as well, is the consultation process before the actual real estate transaction process, so that way how to best serve them?
Correct. And the thing that I've always focused on since the beginning of my career has been the relationship, not so much the transaction. So many times the real estate agent and broker, we get into a rhythm of transaction steps, transaction process, but we really need to develop the relationship. And the relationship begins with listening, listening to what they're saying and what they're not saying, asking the right questions so that you can deliver a positive experience. There's so many people out there that have heard from others that selling a property has been very stressful, very scary, maybe something that they were dissatisfied with the process. And then they blame the agent, right? And so if you can ahead of time develop a technique and develop a very skillful presentation that talks and speaks benefits and listens to people and listens to what their fears are, you can do so much in your career.
Yes, yes, exactly. So that's where a great agent separates themselves from just the normal agents that are out there,
Hmm.
because you have to understand where their fears are, especially if this is a client that's going through this process for the first time, right? I think we were just talking about in a different podcast, As
Mhm.
agents, you've gone through the process multiple times yourself, right? With clients,
Sure.
this is your day to day. But as a client, this is their first time buying, this is their first time selling. So they're not going to understand that. So they're going to have their fears, and you have to come from their perspective rather than your perspective of kind of being that expert who's gone through this,
Absolutely.
hundreds of times, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's a mistake. And that's the training of my agents in my office that I do is that we really focus on listening. Because if you don't listen, you start telling them of what needs to happen, this and this and that, then you're going to miss something. And that missed piece is what's going to be a challenging, not saying all the time, but it could be a challenge during the process because you're getting too transactional. We have to develop the relationship and hear where their fears from. What are their experiences? What have they heard about other real estate agents or other homeowners who have sold that were dissatisfied with something? Instead of getting right to, okay, this is the value for the house. This is the staging person I'm bringing in. Your open house is this, people feel overwhelmed. And that's that 2 a.m. They wake up and think, oh my God, what am I doing? So we often have to be in real estate. And that's why I think psychology goes so hand in hand with this. But in real estate, we're a little bit of therapists. We have to listen. We have to provide, benefits. We have to provide solutions. And I think sometimes that's missed. And even when you have to have tough conversations with people, maybe price reductions or changes, I think it makes it a little easier when you've built that trust with them.
Right. And that's what I think stops a lot of agents from doing their job to the best of their abilities
Mhm.
is they're afraid to have tougher conversations with their clients when the time comes that they need to, right? And sometimes there could be
Sure.
delays in communication. There could be, just not having that conversation at all, leading to a long process of, that house not being sold or just whatever issues that actually do come up in a transaction. So having that trust in place already allows you as the agent to have more confidence to have tougher conversations where you can actually come in and guide the client, right, to make the best decision for what it is that they're trying to do.
Absolutely. And it's just that you have to develop those expectations and you have to tell them in the beginning, this is what potentially may happen. It's not always perfect. We may run into this. This may be a challenge. How should we work together? What's the best way to communicate to you so that I can always make you feel at ease, so that you understand that my professionalism, my background, my process is always working for you. But there's going to be things that come up and we need to talk about it and we need to get to that end goal. Because again, most people at the very beginning, whether they say it or not, are very fearful, whether they're fearful of buying, making the wrong decision, or of selling and choosing the wrong representative.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's important to have those conversations, like you mentioned, up front, right? To set that expectations because if, the transaction goes smoothly, that's great because now you've over delivered, right? You've set expectations that things
Correct.
could go wrong. Things didn't go wrong. How great is that for the client? But if things do go wrong, right, you've already set that expectation up front. So they're not caught off guard, they're not surprised, and they don't feel like they've been, tricked or, been held or, put into dark, if you will, by the agent not sharing something in the beginning. Is that correct?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's really why I've developed a process called transition through transaction, so that we could really guide somebody through this my process so that they know every step of the way and they know again that I am there for their transition. It's not again so much the transaction, although there's transactional aspects that we have to accomplish, but it's about the transitions. And I don't care what stage you're at. It's never easy to move. It's never easy to make these huge life decisions, right? These are big purchases, big sales. And so we just can't take it lightly. And we just have to kind of do our homework and offer things to a client that is not being offered by other agents.
Yeah. And that's a great way to look at it too, because, for the agent themselves, this, of course, is a transaction where you're getting paid, right? You're getting compensated for closing that transaction. But for the client, it's not a transaction, right? It's a life transition, right? They could be getting a new job, they could be moving to a new city, right? They could be sizing up, sizing down, whatever it
Sure.
is, right? Their first house for the first time. That's always a big fear for a lot of people, although it's a big step as well. But for them, that's what they're looking at as. It's a transition. So I love that you've made that made that guide, which is transition,
Mm-hmm.
through transaction
Mm-hmm.
essentially, and
Mm-hmm.
helping them piece
Mm-hmm.
it together.
Oh, yes, yes. And it just like I say, it just kind of, we really in the beginning want to set the expectations and guide them. Because people are just looking for peace of mind. They want to trust you. They want to know that they could rely on you to represent them in this big decision, big life altering event. And so I've dealt with so many different situations. And again, even situations that haven't been so traditional, hoarding situations, all kinds of interesting things. I can have stories for days for you, but you have to have your tool belt filled with things that you can offer a lot of people.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of agents are able to shine as well, is that they do have the ability to offer that, to be able to, be a listening ear, right? Be able to help
Mhm,
clients make that transition as
mhm,
smoothly as possible, essentially manage emotions, their own, of course, and of course the clients on essentially both sides
mhm,
of the transaction at that point. But kind of shifting a little bit, I want to get into maybe a little bit of your experience in real estate, when you're first, around that time when you're first starting out, Greg, as you
mhm.
mentioned, you have about, 2 decades of experience in real estate as a real estate broker. So obviously you went through that first, I would say, a lot of agents may or may not have experienced it, but that 2008 market shift, right? Market crash, if you will. So,
Yes,
what was it like at that time, right? Because that was, just by my calculations, just right around that first few years when you were getting started as a broker and
sure.
that hit. How was that for you? How were you able to get through that and still be successful today?
Sure. And so, what Jumpstart, I did go from right to being a broker because I had the education that made up for the experience. So I had become a broker, very right before that crash. And so what I saw was a lot of people exiting. A lot of agents has thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to be successful in this down market? And so what I quickly did was discover how could I be successful in altering markets? Because there's going to be times when things are up, things are down, there may be crashes, there may be a lot of things that just come out of the blue that people don't expect. But you have to, again, be able to make an adjustment. So the adjustment I made is I learned about short sales and I dove into the short sale industry. I learned, I took on short sales, and we worked with the banks. A lot of experience, and back in that day, when people were leaving because they couldn't handle that down market and taking other jobs, we really shined because we made an adjustment. And that adjustment was with the short sales. And I did short sales for judges, chief of police, nurses. It was everybody. It wasn't that somebody so down and out, but we were dealing with all those properties that were underwater. And instead of letting something go to foreclosure that most people were doing back then, you have to have an alternative of being able to say, hey, this is a better avenue for you. We're experiencing this, it's across the board. But me as an agent, this is what I can also offer you, a broker, as experience to get you through this. And so that's again where you have to make a shift. You have to adjust because we're going to be hit with many markets. There may be many good markets, bad markets, but you have to adjust yourself and being able to offer and make yourself invaluable. Once you have different opportunities to provide people, you're invaluable. So
Yes,
that's kind of what
exactly.
happened. I just made them. I had to hire a whole short sale crew of people making calls to the bank. I went on television. I said, there's an alternative to foreclosure. Don't let it's like the F word right on your credit. A short sale is much better. So we started doing short sales left and right. We did them for many years. And many of those people I had as an ex client because when their credit was cleared, we got them into another property. So that's what you do is you have to make those shifts.
Yeah, and what a great story, I think, because there's so many agents like you mentioned, right, during that time who did exit the business, right? They could not, essentially deal with the fact that there's not as many traditional transactions happening.
Mhm.
But the most successful agents who've been in this industry for, multiple decades, who've gone through 2008 around that time, have always had a similar experience that you've had as well, which is,
Mhm.
how do we actually make ourselves valuable to the client? Let's look at what's happening in the market, and then let's develop these new skill sets that we need to be experts in order to serve the people who actually do need to have a transaction, right? And then, you focus on short sales. And I think that's very important too, because again, that comes with the education piece, because a lot of clients, they don't know that a short sale is actually much better, right, for their credit than a
Sure, than a
foreclosure.
foreclosure. They didn't know. And it was a lot of misinformation. As I called, you go into the office and everyone talks and they give a lot of misinformation. And so I've even, and a lot of banks back then were not even, the people would have all the bad credit just going on, all those late payments, because the banks weren't even foreclosing in time. There were people that were calling the banks and says, "Please foreclose on me. Please stop this." And they weren't doing it. So again, if they would have had a short sale, if they would have been able to get in there was many programs, and especially in California at that time, where there was a lot of forgiveness that was happening. So it's about education, it's about making an adjustment, a shift, because we're in a real estate industry that is going to have shifts. And if you cannot, you know, pivot, then it's going to be a really challenge. It's going to be a big challenge for you because you have to be able to pivot.
Yes, yes, exactly. And then being flexible enough, right, to actually go ahead and, change your business a little bit, right? Learning these new skills, being able to be resourceful at a time like this, right? Because that's not the only market shift you're going to have, right? We've seen that, from 2008
Yeah.
until now, COVID, right? Some people did really well during COVID, but still, that was a big shift for a lot of agents where people didn't really know what was going on at that time in the beginning of 2020 as well. So, I mean, did that kind of affect you at all? Because there's a lot of agents out there maybe starting their careers, right, and they get into a point in a market shift like that, they don't know, but you've gone through it once. So when
Mhm.
2020 happened with COVID, I'm sure that was not necessarily like a piece of cake, but you've already gone through something similar, so
Yes.
you knew what to do to stay afloat.
Yes, and really, I remember March in that 2020, and it was just like you could hear a pin drop. So everything stopped. And then I think everyone was just for a minute, held their breath in real estate. It's like, oh, what are we going to do? We can't go and show property. We can't go into properties, but it actually worked itself out. So back then we were able to, they came out with those forms, you had to sign it. They called them PEDs, where you would go in and say, we're not going to sue you if we get COVID, and we had to wear masks and everything was Lysoled. But if you weren't in the position to pivot, that was another time when people made an exit because they didn't see the opportunity. Real estate has so much opportunity. But again, if you don't, like you said, if you aren't flexible, if you don't pivot, you're going to miss opportunity. And you want to really build your resume with all that experience so that when times are good, you're great, but when times are bad, you could still be great. And so that's I think the difference between those that are just kind of getting by in real estate and those that are really can make a difference in real estate.
Yeah, and that's really well said too, because
Hmm.
there's we see agents exit the business all the time, right? It's not just in a bad market. There's agents exiting the business in a good market, too,
Hmm.
right? Just because they weren't able to be successful on their own, be successful as an entrepreneur, right? And we're seeing maybe a lot of that happening recently too, with the new DOJ and NAR settlement, right, with the new rules that are coming out as well. And again, what a great opportunity. And we're seeing this again across the board. Just really recently, the top agents are the ones who are going out there and making a pivot, making a shift in their marketing and their service to be able to actually turn what a lot of people might see as a negative into a
Yes.
positive, right? And that's getting a lot from what you're saying as well. It's that you can turn a negative into a positive if you're resourceful.
You're resourceful and there's people that actually are selling every day. People cannot wait for market changes. They have to sell it. They have to relocate. people have to downsize. I deal a lot with downsizing. I work a lot with families of the elderly parent that needs to downsize. You have to be able to work with a lot of different segments in a market because it's just not going to just all be the same. So again, it's about constantly really building your educational background and learning, talking about different experiences, and really, really developing kind of solutions for people in various times because there's properties everywhere. There is enough business and real estate for everybody. Because sometimes people feel, oh, an agent has more opportunity than me, or somebody else is better. That brokerage is doing much better. It's like you can make a difference no matter what. I'm a small boutique brokerage. A lot of people think we're ginormous. Where I'm on television, I've been on for many years. We're very well known. It's like, wow, you're so big. We're not that big. It's just that we've been able to get the support systems in place so that we can focus on providing great strategies and solutions for what people are going through for buying and selling in this market.
Right. Exactly, right? And that's what you need to do, right? That's exactly
Hmm.
that's your job as an agent is to be able to provide solutions regardless of what's happening in the market, right? Because you mentioned it was such a
Sure.
good point is that, there are buyers and sellers who can't wait for markets to change, who can't wait for interest rates to drop or to go up or prices to go up or down. They need to make a move now. So it's your job as the broker, as the agent to be
Hmm.
able to offer a solution for them.
Sure, and being the solution person is so rewarding too, to be able to help people figure out how they can make this move and not be panicked. Also, like again, back when those rates were elevated, you'd be surprised how a lot of agents didn't know about buy downs and how we could get people, buyers through that, and how we can be able to be creative with the financing to give them opportunity because people still need real estate. They still need homes. And with the price of rent, the rent was increasing. And who wants to pay somebody else's mortgage? It's so much better to own a home. And there needs to be more home ownership. But a lot of people are just afraid of it because they again talk to the wrong people, they get the wrong advice. And so we really need to be home advocates. And that is advocacy is I'm really big on for people because you want to have opportunities in life and you want to be able to grow a portfolio no matter what stage you're at. But as advocates, we have to really educate people. And that was another big thing for me is that not necessarily coming across, oh, I'm a real estate agent, or I came across as the advocate. And as the advocate, it really, really makes a difference with people and not so much that I'm salesy.
Right, and that's what, many agents are afraid of going out there and being, right, which is salesy. So, I think that's such a
Sure.
great idea for agents to be able to really internalize is you have to become that solutions provider, but also an advocate, right, for
Mhm.
your community, for your clients, and see how you can serve them in the best of your abilities. Because that is, like we were just talking about, the essential of your job as a real estate agent and a broker as well. So,
Mhm.
kind of shifting a little bit, I do want to kind of just, as we wrap up today, talk a little bit more with you about your experience starting out as a broker right away, right? Because that's quite
Okay.
unique, right? You don't see a ton of agents, start out with that. That's, there's obviously a lot of rules and regulations in different states that prohibits agents from doing that. But you said you were able to do that. So you started out as a broker right away. Was that, did that, maybe shift your perspective a little bit? Was there any unique challenges that you faced right away?
Sure, sure. So first of all, the exam that you take isn't necessarily the real day-to-day activities that you will experience and go through. Okay, that's is a lot of people, you study, you want to pass the exam, that's great, but your day-to-day is what matters. And so what I did is I did, join forces with somebody who had some experience so that experience is what I was able to capitalize as a new broker going in. I had all the marketing experience. I just did not have the real estate experience. So I teamed up with somebody who had been in real estate a long time, and I was able to learn from her and to learn a lot of the techniques. And she experienced a lot of different market shifts in her time. And so from that, we opened a brokerage. And with that brokerage, I was able to again go off my marketing ability to be unique, a different, innovative in real estate, an innovative broker, but I was able to capitalize on her experience. So many people, even starting out and going my first few appointments, felt that I had been in real estate for a long time. And so it's just your how you present yourself, and we have to present with confidence, and you have to work on that because people can, what do they smell blood in the water? They can smell if you're afraid or if you're not sure of yourself. So those are a lot of techniques that I really worked on in the beginning as I entered real estate, is to really be sure of what I was doing. I really, really prepared quite well for a listing presentation. And I relied on my background, not so much in real estate, but my background is being an advocate for people and marketing and what I could do that was an innovative marketing approach to sell their property. And so as that went on, it's just people were forgetting. And then I went on television. So people instantly thought I'd been in forever. And I really hadn't. But it's just that you want to present yourself in a very confident manner, and to be able to have all those strategies and abilities so that people can really benefit from it, and to really show people that you absolutely care. You absolutely care. And that is missing a lot.
Yeah, and that's a good point too as well. But the fact that you mentioned you did focus a lot on your strengths, which is I
Mhm.
think quite key for especially newer agents coming into the industries because they don't have the experience, right? That, an agent's been there, 5, 10, 20, 25 years in the business has. So what is it that you can rely on as your strengths, right? So what are some of the things that make you unique, make you different? And that's exactly what you did to go out there, be confident, and also gain your clients' trust instantly, even though you're newer to the business.
It was just how you present yourself, and you'd be surprised what skills that you can pull from your background that you could really apply to real estate. It's whether it's the customer service, the, interpersonal relationships, your great communication. These are all skills that really adds to a real estate career. And so you don't necessarily need to just jumpstart and be, 10 years in it. No, you could be very new, and you could present yourself with a lot of great skills and a great background. It doesn't necessarily have to be in real estate. You can focus on those skills that really made you the person you are today, and that what you really want to give back, and like I say, come across and be the advocate for people.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Suzanne, I just want to say thank you for taking some time today, sharing your value, sharing your knowledge with us here at the podcast on our episode. For anybody out there who is watching or listening to this that want to reach out directly to you, that want to learn a little bit more about how they can work together with you, what are some of the best ways for people to stay connected with you moving forward?
Sure. I actually do a lot of mentoring and a lot of coaching. So they could reach out to me. You can Google my name, Suzanne Rocha, Rocha. I'm also at Suzanne, Suzanne, at calhomeinfo.com, and reach out to me. I'm very responsive, and I would love to offer any advice or help, or even some solutions for people that are in real estate that really want to really succeed and feel good about their career.
Absolutely. We'll make sure to leave the links to how to reach out to you in the description, the show notes down below. But
Great.
other than that, Suzanne, I just want to say thank you for being here today. Before we let you go, is there any last pieces of advice, any last tips, anything you just want to leave with the audience here before we let you sign off?
Just feel good about what you do and what you provide people, because people rely on you. So you also have to feel good about that and know that every day you're really doing the best job you can. But just educate yourself, keep yourself informed so that you can, again, be the advocate and inform your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Suzanne. Thank you for tuning in,
Thank
and
you,
we'll see
Kobe. I
you.
had a great time. Thank you.
Of course. Take care.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.